All right, today we're jumping right into one of the most important sections in the entire National Electrical Code, 210.12. We're talking about arc fault circuit interrupter protection. Look, whether you're out there pulling wire or back at the office designing systems, really understanding these rules is absolutely critical for safety and, for passing inspection.
So let's kick things off with something a little weird, a real head scratcher from the latest codebook. We're talking about a rule that, right now, is literally impossible to follow. It's just a perfect example of how the NEC can sometimes throw you a curveball. I mean, just think about that for a second. The literal rulebook for our trade has new sections all about something you can't actually install. It sounds kind of crazy, but that's exactly the situation we're in with 10-amp circuits. And here's the scoop, straight from the man himself, Mike Holt. Basically, the 2023 NEC went ahead and added permissions for 10-amp AFCI branch circuits in like 5 or 6 different places. So the idea was there, but they just missed a couple of other key changes that were needed to actually make it happen. This right here breaks down the whole problem perfectly. The code says, hey, go ahead and use a 10-amp circuit, but then it doesn't give us the tools to do it. You go look at table 310.16, our Bible for wire ampacity, and there's just no entry for the wire you need. And to top it off, section 310.3 doesn't even allow that wire size in the first place. So for now, it's a rule that's stuck on the page. So yeah, that little code contradiction is interesting to talk about. But let's get to the deadly serious reason AFCI protection was even invented. This isn't just about a bunch of rules. It's about stopping fires before they can ever start. An arc fault is one of the scariest things that can happen in a circuit. It's not a short, it's not an overload, it's sneakier. It's an unwanted electrical discharge, a spark, jumping across a gap. Could be from a staple that's too tight, a wire getting pinched, or just an old, loose connection. And the heat it generates is, well, it's unbelievable. This analogy of a tiny lightning storm, it really is the perfect way to picture it. A normal breaker, it won't see it. It'll just keep humming along. But an AFCI, it's designed to listen for the specific crackle of that lightning storm and kill the power instantly before that storm can set the house on fire. All right, so we get why it's so important. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Where do you actually need it? The code is super specific about the parts of a building that it considers high risk, the places that demand this level of protection. So for a dwelling unit, we're talking your standard house or apartment, the list is, well, it's pretty much everywhere you live. Kitchens, family rooms, dining rooms, bedrooms, closets, hallways, even laundry areas. The rule covers all 120-volt, 15, and 20-amp circuits that feed outlets or devices in any of these spots. Now, when we look at dorms, the list is very similar. You've got your bedrooms, living areas, closets, but hang on, see that key difference? Bathrooms. For dorms, bathrooms are on the list, which is a specific requirement for that kind of living space. And the logic extends beyond just homes and dorms. The code follows people to other places where they sleep. So you'll see it required in hotel and motel guest rooms, inpatient sleeping rooms in nursing homes, and, as we'll see, there's a new clarification for places like fire stations. You see the pattern, right? It's all about protecting people when they're most vulnerable, when they're asleep. Now, this is a huge point. Knowing where AFCI is required is one thing, but knowing where it's not required is just as important. For our typical dwelling units, bathrooms, garages, and any outdoor outlets are explicitly exempt. In those places, you're usually more worried about GFCI protection anyway. Okay, so you know the why and the where. Let's get to the how. How do you actually meet these requirements on the job? The NEC officially gives you 6 different ways to do it, but honestly, we can boil those down into 3 main strategies that'll cover you in pretty much any situation. Picking the right method here is key. The easiest, cleanest way, especially in new construction, is strategy 1. Just pop in a combination type AFCI breaker and boom, the whole circuit is covered. Strategy 2 gives you another option with a special AFCI outlet, but you still need a certain type of breaker. Now, strategy 3, that's your best for remodels. If the wire from the panel to that first box is already protected in something like metal conduit, you can just install an AFCI outlet right there and protect everything downstream from it. All right, let's circle back to what's new in the code, because there's more to talk about than just that 10-amp puzzle. The code is always being tweaked and clarified, and a couple of these recent changes are really important to know. One of the biggest updates is in section 210.12d.
The code-making panel wanted to make sure there was absolutely no confusion about places where first responders sleep. So now the code spells it out, clear as day. You need AFCI protection on the circuits in the sleeping quarters of fire stations, police stations, you name it.
But here's the crucial detail you've got to remember. This rule is very targeted. It's only for the rooms specifically set up for sleeping. It doesn't mean you have to AFCI protect the whole firehouse, the kitchen, the garage where the trucks are parked. Nope. Just the rooms where the firefighters are actually sleeping.
Okay, now for a number that could save you a whole lot of headache, time, and money on those smaller jobs. Just burn this into your brain, 6 feet.
And here's why that number is so important. This is a huge, very practical exception to the rule. If you're just extending an existing circuit in one of those required areas, you don't have to go back and add AFCI protection if the extension is 6 feet or less, and you're not adding any new outlets. It's a common sense rule for those little jobs, like moving an outlet a few feet over.
So when you look at the whole picture, from a rule that you can't even use yet, which just goes to show you the code is always a work in progress, to the rules you absolutely must use every day, it's clear AFCI is a massive part of modern electrical safety. It's all about preventing fires in a world that's more plugged in than ever. And that leaves you with a question to chew on. With smart homes, EV chargers, and all these new electrical loads, what do you think is the next big leap for electrical safety? Thanks for tuning in.